But here, good luck with that, because you never bump into your neighbors in Finland. Keep it respectful, as you do with nature. We cannot fix your problem, we don't speak English. I lived in Finland for 5 years, and here is what I wish I knew before moving to this country. These may be hidden obstacles, but also positives that I believe everybody should know or implement in their own countries. Number 1, social security number. Without it, here in Finland you cannot do even the simplest tasks. You need it to open a bank account, to access healthcare services, renting an apartment, getting university services, and so on. This is massively different from the social security number that we have in Italy, that is barely used or only used for official paperwork and stuff like that. And here it's also part of a vicious cycle, because you cannot get a social security number if you don't have whatever paperwork. Now I don't even remember. It was quite complex, because the one thing that I remember is that when I went with my relocation consultant, and this is a tip, if your employer offers a relocation consultant or any kind of help with the moving process, take it, use their experience and listen to them and ask them all possible questions, because this will really help you, especially in the first few months. But I remember I was at the bank to open the bank account with my relocation consultant, and we had to give a temporary phone number, a temporary address, because for the first month I was in Finland staying at an Airbnb, because I had to quarantine. If you want to learn more about why and all that, I've talked about this in other videos before. But they literally asked, well, where are you staying right now? Even if it's not your address, you're not renting the place. And I gave them that with the promise that within a couple of days or weeks, I don't remember exactly the timeline, I would update both them and all the other offices with the actual address. But since you need an address to get a bank account, it was quite complex, and without a work contract, I couldn't have gotten that. It was a whole deal. And this is why I'm saying it's a vicious cycle. And I don't know how it is in other countries, let me know. I don't even know how it works if you're immigrating in Italy, since I was born there, so do let me know if you have experience with this, if you still have to face the same difficulties. And I remember that after this process, it was impossible to change my phone number for certain services or certain places where I signed up for a service, and I had to give a phone number. At the time I only had a temporary one, or I had the Italian one, and to this day, 5 years later, some of these still have the Italian number, for example, which is not a massive problem because I still have access to my Italian phone number, but you see the issue here. So once you get your social security number, a lot of doors open for you, and even the simplest things such as getting data on your phone, it's way easier, faster. You just access with that, you pay with that, and so on. This is just an example, but when they ask you your ID in Finland and you are a foreigner, you will have to show the Kela card, which has your social security number on it. And more than once I had to pair it with my Italian ID because the latter had a photo on, whereas the Kela card doesn't. And more often than not, I even had to take out the passport and show the passport instead. I remember, once again, at the beginning, I had to bring my passport to collect a parcel at a supermarket because my Kela plus my Italian ID were not enough. Keep in mind that Finns don't necessarily recognize your foreign ID because your national ID may look like something else entirely. They may not be sure that you are actually showing a national ID and so on. So just to avoid any issues, I started showing my passport for a while, and that's way more recognizable internationally. This shouldn't happen often though, and once you have the Kela card, which takes a little while to get to you, but once you have it, it's way easier to access most services. Number 2, moving in summer. My supervisor made me move in late spring, beginning of summer, when the academic year was wrapping up, and by the time my quarantine was over and I could get my social security number, bank account and all that jazz, it was the week of Juhannus, midsummer. This was the main thing that both my consultant and my colleagues and my supervisor forgot to mention. I had no idea that this was a huge holiday. It wasn't even mentioned on the leaflet that the consultant gave me with the main things to know about the country. This means that I didn't know that everything would be closed. People would not be easy to reach via email. Not even if their offices were open, they wouldn't reply. So it was difficult because that's exactly when I was apartment hunting and so on. And if you move around Christmas time, you might have the exact same issue. But that should be more intuitive compared to a holiday that is celebrated in the Nordics and in some other countries, but it's not as widespread as Christmas. Number 3, not everybody speaks English. This may sound both obvious and ridiculous. But what I mean by this is that not even dedicated offices who only have foreign customers, not even there, you are guaranteed to find people who are willing to speak English to you. And this happened so many times, you would be surprised. For example, with the telephone and internet company, at the dental clinic, at the hospital, at the university, and so on. I was mad specifically in the university case because the official languages of Helsinki University are Finnish, Swedish, and English. For example, if you want to become a professor here, you need to take an exam to prove your level of Swedish too, and it's a really high level of Swedish. You are expected to be able to teach and overall communicate in all 3 languages if you are a Finn and you want that kind of position as a professor. But even if you don't want a permanent position like that one, and that's something that applies to the majority of people working at the university, because it's a highly international environment, all official emails are in 3 languages. All of them, from the silliest to the most serious issue. And this is why I was really annoyed, because it's even on the promotional material, or they praise themselves for this, for being able to offer this service in 3 languages, fully in 3 languages. And then when you dig a little bit, you realize that most courses are not offered in English or are not even offered in Swedish, because in the end you have to teach in 1 language, and then you might offer additional material or other kinds of contexts, such as a seminar or a specific conference. They might be in a different language, but you would be surprised by the amount of emails I received saying, "We cannot fix your problem, we don't speak English." At the university, internal emails. And this was during my first year. My colleagues had to jump in every single time, rewrite my emails in Finnish or Swedish in a more informal or obvious way, showing that a Finn or a Swede were writing that email. And only at that point, the technician would help and fix the problem. Maybe you don't know, but at the university, you're not allowed to do your own thing on the laptop because it still belongs to the university. And so you're not allowed to install programs as you please and do even the basic maintenance of a laptop. All of this needs to be done by a technician. And this was always the case. The technician never spoke English. But since I needed him or her to intervene all the time for the basic tasks, it was a nightmare. And all of this in a position, my position, in which I was not required to speak Swedish or Finnish. It was not part of my job. And so, as you see, it may sound arrogant on my part, but I wouldn't be complaining about this issue if the whole university didn't base their own marketing on being trilingual. But this problem of only partly offering services in English is quite widespread, because even on some official websites that are targeting foreigners, only the homepage is in English and everything else is either in Finnish or in Swedish or in both. And the one thing that you might have heard about Finns or people in the Nordic countries is that they speak English very well. Well, it's true, but I still encountered tons of these situations all the time. And when I wasn't expected to know the language, or when it was obvious that I couldn't have possibly learned the language by that time, see, the first year. And if I were to compare this situation with Italy, that's a complete disaster. That's way, way, way worse than Finland. Because, well, they don't really say that they do speak English in any office or anything, not even in the offices that are there for the foreigners. But Italians are known to be not only unable to speak English, they never even learned it, maybe, but those who speak it have such a strong accent or don't really know the grammar well enough for you to understand them. So it's a serious problem in Italy, and I'm still shocked by how many people in Italy don't even want to improve or discuss this problem. So I'm not criticizing Finland for this. I'm just saying that there are specific cases in which they simply don't offer what they promised, and that you shouldn't expect for them to be speaking in English to you, despite all the good things that are told about Finns speaking English. Number 4, get here with a job. In my case, I got my position before moving to the country, and so that wasn't an issue for me at the beginning. But if you were to think of should I move or not to Finland, keep in mind that it's immensely easier for you to move with a work contract, because in 2025 Finland's unemployment rate ranks second highest in the EU, right after Spain and worse than Greece, which you might have heard about over the past few years. This means that the situation is completely different from when I moved here 5 years ago, and I saw how things have changed, including the new government, increase in protests and strikes, as well as the introduction of severe reforms, often hitting immigrants first. And this happened all in the past 5 years, or even less, 2 to 3. So if you watched older videos about Finland and how to move to Finland, they may sound way more positive towards an open policy for immigrants. Now things are different, and you simply have to be prepared. Just know that the country is not as open as it used to be, and unemployment is hitting hard Finns too. It's not just about the immigrants that are the problem or something. So if I were to move this year, I would consider moving only with a work contract. Number 5, Pantti. This is a really positive aspect, and it's simply something that is new to me and that I wish more countries implemented. It's a recycling system, and it took me a while to actually return the bottles that I had cleaned and collected over time, because I wasn't sure where I was supposed to drop them or how the system worked. I just knew that whenever you see this symbol of Pantti on a bottle, it could be a plastic, aluminum, or even glass bottle sometimes. This means that with your purchase you are paying both the product itself and a small fee that will be given back to you once you return the bottle. And for some reason this, I don't think it's been implemented in Italy, at least it wasn't. When I left, we had recycling, but nothing like this. And I believe that this thing, this Pantti, is not just about recycling and sustainability. It also has to do with the fact that Finns love to save money, no matter their financial situation. I believe it's just something that they truly enjoy. Number 6, empty apartments and second-hand stores. This was truly unexpected, because here I believe 90% of places are renting unfurnished apartments. And I mean completely empty in some cases. In some other cases, you might have the kitchen, but you might still have to buy, I don't know, the oven and stove. And the most shocking thing to me was that in all the places that I checked when I was apartment hunting, none of these had a washing machine, which to me is just a basic thing that you should be offering as part of the deal, because that's my experience in Italy. But also in Italy, you nearly always rent fully furnished or partly furnished apartments. And these are basic needs. You always have a washing machine, a stove, an oven, and so on. So this was truly a shock. And I know that some people survive without a washing machine and they just take their stuff to a local place, but no. No, I'm sorry. I washed by hand for the first few months when I was here, and when I was finally able to afford a washing machine, I bought it. But I believe that this thing, the fact that usually you rent unfurnished places, is one of the reasons why there is plenty of second-hand shops, and people will do anything to pay the lowest possible price. And here is a non-comprehensive list of second-hand shops where you might be able to find furniture. In some others it might be focused on clothing. Some of these are charity shops, etc. But there are so many. Number 7, doors can be confusing. Now, this is truly a silly thing, but I wanted to point it out because the first time I saw a Finnish door, I don't know if it's a Finnish door or I don't know which countries use these doors, but I will show you a couple of pictures that I took here and there. And I was really confused when I first saw them, because sometimes these are doors to the shopping center or to the healthcare center, to the university. So we're not talking about doors that are only used in a private space in your home. And actually, let me know if you want to see a video about some features in Finnish homes or apartments that I found quite interesting and surprising, because there's quite a lot. But with doors, I wasn't sure how to open them at first, and in some cases they are so heavy that I still need 2 hands, or I have to keep in mind that I need 2 hands to open a door and stuff like that. It's really silly, but it's one of those things that, okay, it might be confusing perhaps to tourists. Number 8, unwritten or unspoken rules. All countries have their own version of this, so this is just a collection of random facts, things that I learned over time, and that, for instance, in Italy you might learn about bumping accidentally into your neighbor, and then you might ask them, I don't know, how does this work in our building? But here, good luck with that, because you never bump into your neighbors in Finland. But something like the trash in your apartment building is stored or collected in little houses, wooden houses, next to your building, which is something I've never seen before. And they are locked. And this is another thing that I didn't know about, that the same key for your apartment opens the trash house, let's say. But also a bunch of other things, actually. So your key is super important and expensive, so really you need to take care of it even more in Finland. And then there are things that you will pick up if you are aware of your surroundings, you observe others when you just moved to a new country. Things like, don't use your phone speaker in public. I avoid talking over the phone on public transport, for example, but on the street I simply use earphones. But also don't play music or be loud in general, which might be accepted in other countries, even though it's still rude, because in Italy everybody does that, and it's really rude, in my opinion. It's always been rude to me. In Finland you don't use titles, just first names. And it's not offensive. People expect you to call them by their first name. And this applied also to people occupying higher positions at the university. We all used our first names, and that was perfectly normal, which was quite shocking at first. Because in Italy we love using titles, it's almost funny. Another huge difference between the north and south of Europe: don't touch people, respect personal space. Just keep doing what you did during the pandemic, and that should be okay. And then Finnish every man's rights. This is beautiful. I believe Sweden has the same thing. I don't know about Norway, but it's something that I don't think could be made possible in Italy because people by default are not as respectful of the environment in general, which is something that I hate. People are not as aware perhaps of their surroundings, or they don't care as much for something that doesn't belong to them. Whereas here is part of the culture, and you are given the opportunity of using the woods, sharing the same forest, the same resources, enjoying nature, no matter who you are, and this applies to tourists and foreigners too. Everybody has the right, I don't know, to pick blueberries or mushrooms, or hike, go camping, and so on. And you are simply asked to respect the environment. I wish everybody did that in all of Europe. And if you're coming here and renting a car, keep in mind that speeding tickets could cost you a small fortune because the whole system is different here. So just be respectful of all kinds of laws, rules, anything. And if you don't know how to behave, just imitate Finns. There are many more things I wish I knew before moving, but please do let me know. If you moved here, which are the ones that you would say others should know about? If you're a Finn, what else do you think immigrants should learn about before moving? Keep it respectful as you do with nature, because in the comment section we want to be respectful and kind, because once again, your culture, your habits may not match everybody else's, and you can still educate others with kindness. And now that you watched this, check out the video on the screen. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss my upcoming videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.